thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
And we are going to welcome to the stage the one, the only, Erik Deckers.
One person already.
Hope to be worthy of the praise. I also help run our social media account, so that's going up there. And if you come enough times and you lead, you get the coveted 1 millionth cup. Dan called it that. I stole that from Dan. No, this is an organizer's cup for the special conference. Anyway, getting over a cold. I am going to talk about how to make you a gooder writer. Or I'm going to teach you to write good. I thought about giving the title, in just 7 days I can make you a writer. I thought about doing it in a course in a big curly wig for the Rocky Horror Picture Show fans, but my wife wouldn't let me leave the house. So this is an educational session, and we do the normal pitch sessions that you get 6 minutes and 20 minutes feedback, but occasionally we will break from that and do educational sessions that we usually get 20 minutes of talk and 10 minutes of question and answer, but I'm going to try to cut my part shorter. So I want to just go through what are 7 things you can do. Practice this thing, each one per day for a week, and this will improve your writing. And so anybody who says, well, I don't like to write, or I'm not a good writer, I don't know what to do. If you want to write blog articles, content marketing for your business, these are the things that you can do so you don't have to hire somebody like me. This is saving money. Number 1, write an email to your mom. When you're trying to figure out how do I write this blog article about this thing, a GPS app for pets, policy management software for police, something like that, just start, dear mom, let me tell you about this new GPS app for pets that we're building. And then you explain to your mom what the actual product is, and you do it to your mom because our moms love us, but they don't quite get what we do. So you have to explain it in a way that your mom will understand. But because you're writing to your mom, it's going to be a friendly conversational tone. It's going to be lighthearted. You're not going to use a lot of jargon because mom doesn't know that. Or you're going to explain it. You're not going to dumb it down. You're not talking down to your mom. Because remember what happened the last time you did that, right? So we're not doing that. But you're going to make it simple. You're going to explain everything in the email. You're going to make it as clear as possible. And then when you're done, you're going to go back and delete this first part. And that is your blog article. Light, it's conversational, it's accessible, it's easy to understand. That's what we should be doing anyway. But if you write to your mom first, firstly, start a different message, not to your mom. Do not write to your mom, look, stupid. But if you've got something and you don't know quite where to start or quite how to explain it, just write down, look, stupid, let me tell you about X. And then you just jump right into it. And it's very direct. We're not being mean, but we're being direct, we're being simple. We want this person to understand. And so we just jump right into the information. It's informative. We say it in a loving way, because we want this person to know what we're doing. But the first time I ever heard about this, I thought, it does sound kind of dumb. Like a few weeks later, I was stuck for how do I write this opening for this article. Popped right out. Those 2 words changed the entire approach that I had. And then, of course, I did go and delete the first part. But it made the information flow so much more easily, because I started with those 2 words. So, dear mom, look stupid. No. Remember what happened. Another thing that I always tell people is to eliminate adverbs. You can always tell the marketers, because they'll get up and they'll say, I had such an amazing time, I met this wonderful person, and we had this scintillating conversation, and what did you talk about? I don't know. Well, how long did you talk? 5 minutes. How do you know they're amazing? We throw out these adverbs. and a lot of adjectives to flower up the language. You don't need that. Basically, if you have to describe a verb, you have picked the wrong verb. Instead of running quickly, say the person raced. Instead of eating noisily, you say they wolfed down their food. You see how that works? Your verb, strong like bull, right? Pick the best verb you can. Don't describe the verb. There are occasions where you may want to do this, but not very often. Anybody know Ernest Hemingway's short story, Big Two-Hearted River? Two-Hearted River. It's I always recommend this to people who are learning how to improve their writing. It's about 7,000 words long. It's written at a 3.4 grade level, so third grade, fourth month grade level. It has 17 adverbs in the whole thing, out of 7,000 words. I know people who can't go a single sentence without an adverb. 17 and they're all like variations of very or really. So you can do it. Stephen King said the road to hell is paved with adverbs. And this guy writes, giant books that would like stun an ox, and it has rare adverbs in the book. So you can do it without that, and it will actually make your writing more direct. It'll make it tighter and easier to read and easier to understand, because we're not processing how did they eat, how quickly did they run. We see the better verb, and processing of the information comes out much more easily. Short words, short sentences, short paragraphs. We are a society of skimmers. People don't want to read big blocks of text. They don't want to read words like utilize instead of use. Most newspapers are written at a 6th grade reading level, not because we're dumb, but because the information needs to be easy to process. So even the most educated PhDs prefer reading simple language, even though they have their industry and field terminology that they like to use, and they like to use a lot of big words. They still prefer reading short words. Somebody did a study once on the award-winning articles in academic journals, and they picked 50 of the award-winning articles, and they picked 50 of what were voted to be the worst articles in those same journals. What they found was that the award-winning articles written by PhDs, reviewed by PhDs, published for PhDs, the award-winning articles were published at an 8th grade reading level. The worst articles were published at like a 14th, 15th, 16th grade level. If you run your text through the Flesch-Kincaid score on Word, it will give you an 8.3. That means an 8th grade reading level in the 3rd month. So if you can keep it below 8, you're doing wonderfully. But short sentences, you want them to be easy to read. You want to have the information presented in a concise manner, and in short paragraphs, because we are skimmers. And like I said, people don't want to see big blocks of text. And so if you give them visual breaks, just a couple lines and a little white space, and a couple lines and a little white space, what happens, excuse me, what happens is people, as they are skimming on their phones, and most people will not go past 3 screens of information. So if you want to get that 4th screen in there, you need that white space, because they'll say, oh, it's just a couple sentences, I can read that. Oh, it's a couple more, I can read that. Oh, and I'll read that. Oh, and that. And you've sucked them into reading the entire thing. They don't realize that they have reached the end of the article until they get there, because you use short paragraphs and you have that white space. Stop copywriting. Copywriting is where we want to sound really, really smart. I used to work for the Indiana Department of Health. I was in the crisis communication, and I can't tell you the number of people, and they tended to be former military, because we were all in the emergency response division. They tended to write like this. Smith related that upon his return to the aforementioned residence, he made the observation that the forwardmost point of entry was unsecured. What does that mean? Smith said the front door was unlocked when he got home. They did this all the time because they figured, well, this is an official government document. I need to sound really smart. No, you don't. You need to sound really clear, You need to make things clear so people understand it. So don't do this. This is copywriting. Police officers write this kind of stuff all the time. Write it this way. If you are going to have normal people reading this later on, you need to be as clear as possible.
So it's legalese.
Yeah. And the lawyers will tell you they have a reason for writing the way they do. Most of it's bullshit. But if you can make it as clear, because your goal is to persuade people, right? And if you sound like this, you're not going to persuade anybody. If you sound like this, they know whether they want what you have. If they say no, you want it to be because they realize I don't need this, not I don't know what this is. So don't copyright. No bullshit words. David Ogilvy said, never use jargon words like reconceptualize, demassification, attitudinally, judgmentally. They are hallmarks of a pretentious ass. This is a row of cows, if you can't tell. That one's the pretentious one. Don't use big words. Don't use jargon. We like to use jargon. It makes things simple. We like to turn nouns into verbs and verbs into nouns. Don't do that. You sound pretentious. Again, this is another example of us trying to write for each other in our industry, not writing for the customers. We want to sound smart, and we don't seem to care if we're persuading customers or not. You need to remember, we read newspapers, those of us who still do, read newspapers at a 6th grade reading level. If you try to sound really, really smart, and your customer is used to processing information at a 6th grade reading level, you're not going to win them over. This and cop talk, turn your customers off. Passive voice is to be avoided. I have a picture of a zombie with this one. Basically, if you can put the words by zombies at the end of a sentence and it makes sense, that is passive voice. The meeting was called to order by zombies, right? The donuts were purchased by zombies. Mistakes were made by zombies, right? That's a passive voice sentence. It doesn't mean that you can't ever use passive voice. There will be times where you need it, but for the most part, we want active voice. The zombies called the meeting to order, right? If you say the meeting was, I called the meeting to order by zombies, that doesn't make sense, so it's active voice. That's the simple trick between passive and active, the by zombies trick. So that's it, that's my time. If you have questions, you can email me at eric.deckers@gmail. eDeckers on Twitter. ericdeckers.com is my humor website. I've been writing a newspaper humor column for 28 years, and ProBlogService.com is my work site, and I write about content marketing and writing and grammar occasionally, so check me out there. But do we have any questions?
I'd make one presentation suggestion.
Yes.
Instead of look stupid, your second letter should be to your brother.
I would say the same thing.
Well, yeah.
So Eric, when you talked about, again, keeping it simple, short words, short sentences, short paragraphs, how do headings and subheadings fit into that?
I'm glad you asked that. That's important. That breaks up our text as well. So on a website, it's an H2 subheading. Your H1 is your title at the very top, your headline at the very top. H2 are all your subheadings, and it's just like a subheading in a textbook. You know, this is a big chunk of information you need to know, and then we break that down into smaller sections. That's an H3. So for SEO no, that's you. For SEO purposes, you want to use keywords in your H2 tags, and then maybe even in your H3, your subheads. But those are important just for that visual breakup.
Yeah, I've been writing a lot of technical recently for a variety of things, and I'm finding that I have more success in what I'm doing by literally writing TLDR at the top and putting that skinny reality of what I'm trying to get at. Like, is there a process that I can use that can make that sound a little less informal?
Call it a summary, executive summary, if they want to feel important. But that's pretty much what it is. TLDR means too long, didn't read. And a lot of people will put that on like a Reddit post or an email. TLDR, this could have been a meeting kind of thing. Rupert and then Denny.
So short words, short sentences, short paragraphs.
Yes.
So as entrepreneurs, are we screwed?
That's about the longest word we're going to come across or should have.
Less than 3 syllables.
Yeah. Denny and Bert.
How do you feel about AI? It makes you sound like you're more intelligent, but is it too much?
I like AI. I use it. But it's a brainstorming tool. It's a summarizing tool. It is not a writing tool for me. If I have it write something, I rewrite the entire thing. And there is software that will tell you, was this AI generated? In fact, I was just talking to Mary about this. There are websites where you can take a block of copy and have a check, is this AI written? And it'll tell you, mostly human, mostly AI. The other thing you can do is Google the phrase as a large language model. Put that in quotes and you will be astonished at the number of pages that start out as a large language model, because whoever made the page just copied whatever, it didn't even read it, just copied it, pasted it, copied it, pasted it. And so there are tens of thousands of pages that start as a large language model. The problem with AI is that the writing is boring. Forget that it's not very good. It's just boring and it's not engaging, and people don't want to read it. And so you can use AI to write your stuff. You could write 500 blog articles in a matter of a few hours, and it was free. And you publish all those on your blog. And you might get 500 people to show up, and they each read one article, and it was not very good, and so they didn't engage, and so you put your call to action at the bottom of the article, and they didn't click because they didn't like what they read, and so really what good was this free stuff? You hire somebody who knows how to tell stories, who writes interesting information, who writes well, and they engage, and you might only get 100 people to show up to your website, and only 10 or 20 people click the call to action, but that's 10 or 20 more than you had on the free version. So AI is helpful, and I use it to brainstorm. Tell me 5 benefits of having a GPS app for pets. What are 5 reasons why police departments should use policy management software? And then I'll say, that was great, give me 5 more, and then give me 5 more, 5 completely different ones. And then I will go through, out of the 15 results I got, and pick the 5 best ones, and then write about those. And I may say, expand on point number 7, I don't understand this. And it'll say a lot more, and then it's like, okay, I get this. It saves me a lot of time, because I could come up with those 5 reasons, and I can go out and do all the research and the reading, and it'll take me 90 minutes to do that and 30 minutes to write the article. Or I have AI do it, and it's done in 5 minutes, and then I spend the other 1 hour and 55 minutes writing it, double checking what it gave me, because AI just makes shit up all the time, and making sure that it's correct. But either way, I do a lot of heavy lifting at the beginning, so the end result goes quickly, or I do all the heavy lifting automatically, and then I have to shape and refine for most of that time. Bernd and then Brent.
Okay, and then we're going to
What's the difference between the article, writing an article, and writing a book? Same philosophy, same.
Yes. If you're writing blog articles, if you did 2 a week, and they're each 700 words, you'd have 100 articles by the end of the year. You would have 70,000 words. That is a nice sized book. So if you ever want to write a book, outline it, come up with your chapters, your subsections, subsections. Each subsection is a blog article. You schedule that out, and you basically twice a week, Tuesday, Thursday, you publish that small section of your book, get people to comment and give feedback, and by the end of the year, you're done. Or you hire me, and we'll get it done in 3 months, and it'll cost you $20,000. Right.
When it comes to blog posts, what grade level should should that be when you're trying to attract new customers? And then how long should that be? So how long, and also what is the grade level?
Sixth to 8th grade, and you can use something like HemingwayApp.com, 1M in Hemingway, or Grammarly, or there's another one.
Readable Pro.
Was it
Readable?
Readable, or there's another one called Espresso. The coffee is espresso, but this is Espresso.com, and it'll give you reading levels. And also, are your sentences too complicated or just right? A blog article should be between 700 and 1,000 words. Even if people don't read all of it, Google loves a lot of text. And so if you have nice long articles, Google will read it, but you'd be surprised at the number of people that want that information. There are cases where you can write 2,000 and 3,000 word blog articles. It's called pillar marketing. And people will read them because you've got the exhaustive source of all that information.
And just real quick, should you do a summary, like a TLDR?
I don't. I tell people just read the damn piece. All right. Thank you very much.
He's also called this talk, Writing and the Art of Subtlety. And now we're going to bring to the stage Rod McKenzie with Story Changes Everything.
Imagine that. We are all talking about writing today a lot. 1994, I'm in my last semester in college. My wife is pregnant with our second child. I have to pass all my classes. Which to get my 2 minors, I had to pass all my classes. I had 5 job interviews, got 4 job offers, decided to create a product and a business, flew out to a convention after we got the product created to launch the product, and it had nothing to do with what I went to college for. It was a marketing business instead of computer science. Go figure, right? So for the last 30 years, even though I worked in corporate America for 18 months as a in computer fields, I've been doing marketing. And that product that I created was a little 4-page newspaper, talking about newspapers, Eric, a little 4-page newspaper that had about 20 testimonials in it. And if anybody's ever heard of network marketing, you know that it's a hard thing to do, right? Because you got to pitch all your friends, you got to do all this kind of stuff, and it's just, I had a sales tool company for network marketing distributors. I sold the shovels to the gold diggers, which just like back in the gold rush, right? So I created this 4-page newspaper, no advertising. All we did was tell stories. And those stories, one example was of one of the companies that I worked with. They were just starting out, had a couple thousand distributors, and I sold in 6 months, I sold 2.5 million of those newspapers. They grew from 2,500 to 70,000 distributors. Why? Because stories sell. Facts tell, stories sell. So what I do is, we think in stories. We dream in stories. We talk in stories. We solve problems in stories. How many people have ever woken up and said, oh man, I got that idea in my dream? And when I've done that, in the smart times, I've had a little notebook by my bed. And I've actually written it down. Now I have to get glasses to see the notebook, so I can't even get that written down. But there's a thing called neural coupling. This is why stories are so powerful. They actually did functional MRIs, so movies of the brain, of the storyteller and of the listener. When the storyteller told facts and figures, language, words, bullet points, the listener's brain didn't light up like the storyteller's brain. When they told a story, brains mimicked each other. So you've always heard, paint a picture in sales, right? You always got to paint a picture. That's why painting a picture works, is because you're conveying an image. Real quick, same story, 2 versions. First version, I heard a loud noise, walked through a hole in the wall, looked up and got wet. But if I told you it this way, I'm so excited. I moved to Florida. just like 3 years ago, every time I hear thunder, I look outside, I get so excited, I throw the door open, run outside, stay on the grass, and just look up, get soaked, and hope I don't get struck by lightning. The first story, you were trying to figure out what I was saying. The second story, you lived it with me. Story is everything in what we do. So why? Everyone talks in facts and figures. So problems businesses face. The number one reason businesses fail is because they run out of cash, right? Well, the number two is there's no market need. Rupert loves this graphic as well. This is from CB Insights, large research firm. They did postmortems on hundreds of companies. And the reason that there's no cash flow is because there's no market need. Now, if I can take a rock, paint it, put googly eyes on it, okay, it's called a pet rock, put it in the Happy Meal box, and make $20 million, can you tell a story about your product? You should never fail because there's no market need. That should never be the cause of failure. That means engineers got a hold of something and they're trying to sell features and benefits and bullet points.
Solution for a problem.
Yep, they're trying to sell a solution. If you sell a problem 90% of the time. Your presentations should be 90% transformation, 10% product. Okay? So, lack of clarity results in not knowing what to say. If you don't know your own story, you don't have clarity on your story. You don't know what to say. If you're not knowing if your business matters, poor lead gen, marketing, sales, it's just silly how many people think that everybody wants what they have. You got to know who your client is, who your ideal client is. You got to know what they want. You got to know what their problems are. You got to know their pit of despair. Remember, the only job of you as a business is to take someone from their pit of despair to their promised land. That's it. You don't matter. Nobody cares about you. I don't know if you realize that. Nobody cares about your business. Nobody cares about you. They only care about your business is if you understand them, you get what they need, and they feel that you have that relationship, and then all of a sudden you can transform them. Right? Because they'll trust you. They're not going to trust your solution. How many people here have ever gotten proposed to on the first date? How many dates does it take? Now, okay, in all fairness, my wife and I knew each other.
5 to 12.
All fairness, my wife and I knew each other for 108 days before we got married. We have been married for 33 years. So it has worked. Now I know that's not common, right? So your core story is who you are, what you are, why you are. Okay? Everything about your ideal client, how you're going to change the world. Do you believe that with what you're doing, you can change the world?
Yes.
Now, that world may be one person in one home. It may not be fixing Haiti right now, right? Boy, that's a mess. Okay? But it could be one person's world at a time. But if you don't believe you can change the world, why in the heck are you in business? If it's a fad, it's going to come and go. And then what are you going to replace it with? That's why the problem with Kickstarter businesses is they sell something on Kickstarter and then they got to come up with the next big thing. And they do this over and over. If you got the formula, you can make it work, but it's very difficult. Strategic narrative drives pitch decks, videos, websites, social media posts, ads, leads gen, ebooks, marketing, just about anything else. Okay? Absolutely everything. So what we do, this is the process that I go through in my business. We create the core story. I've spent 30 years understanding, and I'm a very formulaic person. I'm a computer scientist. But I've created a formula, and then when AI came out, I've now put that formula into AI to where I can take, and say I were to take Scott's business technology, which I'm going to work with Scott, and I were to say, okay, I'm going to interview you for half an hour on your business. And then I want you to provide me with 3 competitors' websites, the thought leaders in your space, the experts, the best articles that you can find. Dump 20 of them on me. Then I take that and I can put that into AI, and I can spit out a core story for you. Now, it's not easy, the prompting that I've had to do to go through to figure that out, and it's taken my 12-week process down to 3 weeks. But I can take that, and then you use that core story in coming up with video scripts, replacing the About Us on your website, creating personas. I can create 50 different personas for a business, where you can target people individually. You can run Facebook ads on each persona to see which one actually works. You can cover your whole sales process, storyize everything that you do. Dream 100, that's where you target the 100 clients that you want to work with most. We figure out ways to go after and capture them. I have an AI example. I don't know if that's something we really want to talk about, but it's something if you'd like to get with me, I'd be happy to show you a couple things. I did this on my own company. By the way, I'm a big AI fan. I've been using ChatGPT for a long time, but I just use Claude with this. I don't know if you've heard of Claude from Anthropic, and their Claude version 3 blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. So that's me, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Rod.
Yes.
Do we have any questions?
Wow, nothing.
How soon can you get started?
Talk to me afterwards. We can get started. Yep, Ben.
I really don't have a question, it's just more of a comment. If you start out with a good story, you've got your audience. If you don't have a good story to start with, you're gonna have a tough time getting that audience and paying attention to anything you say.
Right.
So start with a good story and you'll get there.
How did I do today? How did I do today?
You did great.
Cool. There's as you've heard of Ernest Hemingway, one of the things that I generate out of this core story is 6-word stories. Ernest Hemingway said that you can tell any story in 6 words. He gave an example: for sale, baby shoes, never worn. Okay, that is a tearjerker. Movies have been written about that, with that plot line. You know, so you can do any stories. What I do is I also say, give me 10 clickbait headlines. You know, you guys know what clickbait is? You know, top 4 things, blah, 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 click here, type of thing. But the reason you use those is because a powerful headline and a powerful hook is everything. Now, I got the core story idea from a guy named Chet Holmes. He wrote a book called The Ultimate Sales Machine. I took consulting from his organization, some training, coaching from him. And he put it like this. Okay, say you got 50,000 of your ideal client, 50,000 people in a stadium. They had to stay in their seats for 10 seconds, and then they can get up and leave. How are you going to get them to want to stay in their seats? Every single step that you do has to have some kind of story wrapped through it. Every feature and benefit statement has to have a transformation with it.
Yeah, I have an issue that I'm working on, project where I have to put 90,000 words into a 2,000 word article, and on some information I'm working on is critical for understanding. Is there a reasonable way you could take that much technical information and storyize it and that much? Doesn't confuse the hell out of other people.
Of course. What you do is, if you do it right, you can take AI, you can take Claude, for example, put that 90,000 words into a document, upload it into Claude, and say, give me your top, break this article down and categorize this article. Give me the categories, give me the summary bullet points, all these things. And then if you want, you can have it write it for you, but I would rewrite it. AI is not there in writing. Eric's completely right on that. Although what I did do for a book that I'm writing with a client, I took my interview that I interviewed them, and I had Claude generate the first draft. It was in first person. It was fantastic. So I got like a 20% or 10% AI rating because I took it directly from an interview. So yes, you can put that into an AI model, and it will summarize and break everything down, and you can say, pull out all the particular facts. You're going to have to go back and verify it, though, if it's that critical. But AI will give you a great starting point. There's a question over here.
Yeah, so when it comes to email campaigns,
yes,
you have to do a drip campaign.
Absolutely.
drip campaigns, you have to be very precise to the. So how do you tell a story in a drip campaign? You know that you have to get their attention as quickly as possible to have them do an action. I know there's
Every single, it doesn't matter if it's a drip campaign, but and you can use AI to create your whole outline for your drip campaign. You probably have done that. But it doesn't matter if you're in an email, if you're in a drip campaign, a single email, if you're in a text message, anything. What I always think of is think about every feature and benefit, right? Because really what you're doing is you're talking about a feature of you, your relationship, your software, your product, your widget, whatever it is, and there's a benefit to them, right? But how are you going to transform them? And so the transformation is the benefit of the benefit. So a feature is a 4K resolution on a TV. The benefit is, you know, being able to see the golf ball with the Nike logo from Tiger Woods' chip shot roll in the hole at the 16th on Masters back, 20 years ago. But what was the benefit of the benefit? The transformation. Okay? You felt like you were sitting there with your eyeball right up next to that. It was so clear on that TV, right? And the benefit was you felt like you were actually at Augusta. So how are you transforming your client? So everything that you do always include the transformation. And that is how you're telling a story. So remember, a story doesn't have to be Jack and Jill ran up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Or, if, am I out of time?
No.
Oh, okay. But it can be, when you look in the mirror and you see what you can be. That's a story. Right? These little motivational moments you see on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, you don't see a whole lot of inspiration on X. But, you see these moments, it's 10 seconds. That's how long your elevator pitch is now, by the way. You get 10 seconds, 7 to 10 seconds. Their attention's gone. It's no longer a 30-second elevator pitch. If it's not right up front and right here, right now, then you've lost them. Yeah, attention spans are gone. You get 1.7 seconds per screen. That's how much you get on an average scroll. People scroll 300 feet a day. It's 6 inches at a time. Okay? So you get 1.7 seconds. People spend 90 minutes a day on TikTok. Now, that's 150 million Americans spending 90 minutes a day on average on TikTok. So if you spend 1 minute or 0 minutes, imagine how many people are spending 10 hours, right? Eric?
Ray online says, in B2B relations, when business owners rather require more analytically charged conversations instead of emotionally charged story ones, why do you think it would still work in B2B?
Jeff Bezos, little guy who owns a little company called Amazon, right? He changed his meetings. He did not allow bullet lists at all. You had to come in with a 6-page narrative for a meeting. You had to write a 6-page narrative with no bullet points, because he said that when people spoke in narratives, in stories, and once again, we're not talking about Jack and Jill. We're talking about transformational statements. The data analytics of this and that, it provides this kind of resource, and you have a transformation in there. He required that of all of his executives. Story is absolutely everywhere, and frankly, if you're speaking in bullets, I'm a marketing director for a $20 million brand. I'm responsible for a $2 million ad spend a year with the company. That'll probably go up to $3 million to $4 million this year. I am very heavily into data and analytics. Right now I'm setting up server-side tracking so we can properly attribute all of the sales to all of our different marketing channels. I believe in data, but data doesn't matter if you can't put it into context. So whether it be data, whether it be analytical thinking and all these kinds of things, if you put it into the 6th to 8th grade reading level, Gary Halbert, one of the best sales writers everywhere, his target was 3rd grade, 3rd to 4th grade. That was the holy grail for sales writing. 5-letter words, 6-letter words, tops. If people can speak it conversationally, they don't have to care about trying to figure out what it means. That's why I sold 90 million publications and sold hundreds of millions of dollars worth of products, because all of the stories were conversational stories. That's why Erik is a great ghostwriter, because his stuff is very conversational. So even if you're in a B2B analytical CEO level stuff, when it's conversational within the proper context, the proper conversational context for a meeting with the CEO is different than with a customer for a widget. So you got to keep the conversation contextual as well. Something else?
We're hitting our time on it. I was reminded by this sweet note that I got passed in class. Doesn't have to be for a long time, so I feel a little special. I did not ask Erik, so I'm going to ask collectively, Erik and Rod, what can we as the Orlando 1 Million Cups community do for you?
I love helping people. That's silly, but that's my purpose in life, is when I look at someone smile and know that I contribute to it. That's what moves me. So that's why I spend my time here at Startup World. So if you need some help, let me know. If it turns into a client relationship, great. But if it's not, that's great too. So,
For me, I'm always looking for companies to work with. I ghostwrite blog articles mostly for B2B
He's my
companies.
blog writer for my company.
Exactly, I actually work for Ron. But B2B companies, regardless of industry, and I also ghostwrite business books and memoirs. So if you know anybody who wants to write a thought leadership book, my dream is to write a memoir for a retired athlete. So if you know a retired athlete who's thinking, oh, I should write a book, let me know.
How about the world's strongest young?
There you go.
There you go. All right. Okay. A takeaway that I got. Thank you, Rod. Thank you, Erik.
Thank you,
A
guys.
takeaway that I got today is you should write conversationally, but you shouldn't use the word. Again, follow us on all the socials. Again, look for 1 Million Cups Orlando, and it'll show up. And then like us and follow us and recommend us to your friends. Recommend us to people that you don't like too, because they need help. All right, connect with somebody that you've met here today, or that you've connected with here in the past, and you've reconnected today. There's lots of coffee shops and snack places in the area. Here's just a few within a stone's throw if you're Hercules. Next week we are still looking for presenters. So if you have a company that you are working on and you're maybe in a growth phase and you are open to some feedback on your presentation, please get with us.
Or you're not in a growth phase and you need to be in one.
Or you're not in a growth phase and you need to be in one. Exactly. And but get with us. We do need presenters, and we want absolutely to have presenters that are already part of our community. So we appreciate all of you. We thank you, and we will see you all next week.